You are now listening to Creator Corner. Hi everyone, welcome to Creator Corner. I'm Mary.
And I'm Dalia.
And today we're super excited to have Jade Lay, who's the founder and owner of Lemonade 510 brand and is originally from the Bay Area. She started selling her branded sticker products, but it flourished into selling into more embroidered design goods. So we're super excited to learn more about your brand, Jade, and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. Let's jump into it.
Yeah, totally. Yes. So we like to get started by doing some quick fire questions with our guests. So, the first thing that comes to mind with these questions. And so, Jade, if you could, bring back a fashion trend, what would it be?
Oh gosh. If I could bring back a fashion trend, I kind of miss everyone wearing fake glasses. Like, do you remember?
My gosh.
Yes.
Like you would like just get a pair of lens that you really had no prescription, but they're just like flashy. I think some people do it, but like not everyone. I was definitely somebody that came to school with some fake pair of sunglasses or like fake glasses before I realized I needed a prescription. Yeah.
That's too funny.
So funny.
Yeah, I've always worn glasses, so I didn't participate.
I didn't.
But no, I told
later on. Yeah.
Okay, so second question. So if you were not creating Lemonade 510, what type of creator would you be? What other type of creator would you be?
I always have this fantasy that I would have been a saxophone player. I joined band when I was in the 5th grade and was really hoping to continue it in middle school, but my counselor didn't put me in band, so it was a very short, musical career. But I think about it all the time. Like, damn, I wish I knew how to play the saxophone.
Never too late.
Yeah, totally. But I feel like the saxophone is such a sexy instrument. I don't know why. I feel like it sounds so nice. Oh, but that's such a cool instrument.
Yeah. No, it's not too late. I think I look on Facebook Market sometimes, anybody selling, giving away a free saxophone.
That's so awesome. But yeah, just to get us started with just learning more about you and again, your brand, we want to know, Jade, what were your creative outlets rooting back to maybe your childhood years and growing up in general?
So I actually didn't really start getting creative until I got much older. I was a very active kid, so a lot of my time was spent going to karate or playing softball, doing homework. And so I think creativeness kind of came out when I was younger, when I had the choice to do fun projects. When it was okay, do your mission project that we had to do when we were in the 4th grade, or any hands-on stuff. I definitely felt okay, I'm seeing a side that I don't often see, just because I can spend the time to do it. But I wasn't much of a drawer. I wasn't much of a I'm gonna create this just for fun. But I was running around getting active. And then when I got older was when kind of really when I started this business was really when I started to hone into it.
Yeah, I guess your creativity was expressed in other ways through athletics or other forms of creative expression out there that may not look like the typical creative of sketching or artist, but that's interesting to hear that it was started much later on.
I would say the only thing that I felt was kind of creative when I was younger was I was really into making mixtapes. Downloading music from LimeWire.
Yes.
Now, not to say that's not creative, but I think it's not something that we think about all the time. I was loved making mixtapes for my friends and downloading a bunch of songs off of LimeWire and doing that type of stuff. So I'll say that. I was doing that when I was younger.
Okay, no, for sure.
That's such a throwback. I feel like it was such a love language to make someone a mixtape. But I love that yeah, as Mary said, that you mentioned you were like a little bit of a late bloomer in terms of your creative process, which I appreciate that, because I know we hear some creatives out here were like making these incredible sketches at 3 years old.
Right.
Which we talked a little bit about your brand and the way that we're going to dive into how you've grown that brand, but I'm so curious to hear what are some similarities that you've seen in terms of your creative process and being a small business owner. Like what are some overlap there with those skills that you've noticed?
So just to clarify, like from being the business person aspect and then like overlap with like what it takes to be a creative.
Yes.
That's a good question. In terms of overlap, ultimately I think the biggest one is just reminding yourself that like you're doing this for you. And that like ultimately in terms of your business and what you end up creating should be for you. Like, yeah, ultimately like your goal is to sell products and to hope that people like them. But if you're making stuff that you don't like and you're trying to push things, then I feel like it's going to fail both ways. Unfortunately, like if you're making stuff that you don't like, it doesn't feel good. You're probably not really taking the quality and time to, make it the way that you want. And then same with business. If you're trying to push a product that you don't really care about, then it's kind of like, I'm not enjoying this. Like, is this something that I really want to do? And so I would say that's the biggest overlap, is to constantly like ground yourself and remind yourself, like, I'm doing this because I want to, and that I want to create this and I want to push this, versus some other idea of what I'm doing or why I'm doing this.
Yeah, I like that response, just because I think as a creative, you're the one that really need to believe in your product, and whether it transforms into like a small business like you've had, that's like secondary to you believing to your product. Because like you said, if the creative doesn't believe in it, it's most likely not going to sell the way the creative wanted to sell either. So I do appreciate that overlap in response. But I guess with that, when you started, we read a little bit about your bio. It's mainly to, hey, maybe I can do this as a side thing to pay off some student loans. But evidently it did become way more than that. But can you speak a little bit about maybe the initial challenges you had when starting Lemonade 510?
Yeah, of course. So you're right on it. I started the brand about 5 years ago. To help pay for my student loans when I graduated from Mills. I was like, oh my God, this is a lot of money. Like, and I know, seriously, like this was a scam. But no regrets. I would do it again. And that's a whole other story. But in terms of challenges when I first started, I think it was just kind of trying to figure it all out, to be honest. Initially, I started the brand really to pay for my student loans. Like I said, like I wasn't that much of a creative, but I really found inspiration from just going to a bunch of markets and having a pin collection of my own. There's like a little peak right here, but I was like, oh my God, people are like doing this. Like they have ideas and they just like sell them. Like that's crazy, And I think I was like, you know what? Like I could use some extra cash. Like have some simple ideas that I don't think that are crazy. And so I started off with those stickers. And so I think the challenges was just like, well, how far do I want to go with this? What do I really want to make? Because I remember I was like, okay, I have these stickers. Ooh, I want to make earrings. Ooh, like I think I kind of want to like dabble into that, but it's like, that's too much. And I think oftentimes like we get so like, I'm definitely an impulse person. Like if I want to do it, like I'm going to figure out how to do it today. And it took me a while to realize actually like stickers should just be the thing right now. And then it was just managing kind of, working a job, like full time, and then also running a business on the side, and considering like, what are some logistics that I need to figure out that's going to keep my business end like really stable and sustainable, but also keep this fun and light too. So yeah, I think to wrap it up, the biggest challenge was really just trying to narrow everything down and kind of get my ideas like actually out for the first time. Like, oh my God, like I'm going to try to make something and try to sell it. Like that's scary.
Yeah, definitely. The first step is getting started and like putting your products out there. I have, a friend that has been building a business plan for quite some time, and I know that me and my other friend are constantly reminding them, like, you just have to do it. There's so much planning, but just put it out there. So I really love that about your story, because my friend is also such a big advocate, which is funny because she is still working her business now, but she's such a big advocate for people starting their own business, because there is so much support that you get as you have your brand that you're building, your business, your products. But taking it back, I guess, a step back to the initial creation of Lemonade 510, would love to hear a little bit about that process of creating the logo and what you drew inspiration from in that creation process.
Yeah, so my logo, I know people are going to be listening to it, but my logo visually is a lemon with a barcode in it. And I think some of the most simple or kind of recognizable logos is something that just kind of makes you look and just kind of like what is that? Or like, I haven't really seen that before. And so, I mean, given that the name is Lemonade, which I'm more than happy to share like where that came from later too.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a lemon, and then given that I was kind of starting my business first time like really doing anything like this, I think a barcode like kind of symbolized that you're gonna buy something. And so that was kind of really it. It's just that okay, I want there to be a lemon, and I want there to indicate that this is gonna be a business. And so I don't know, I feel like it sounds so simple, but I haven't changed it all. And to be honest, I'm like working on like branding or like trying to figure out how to incorporate my logo more. But yeah, that's kind of it.
Can you say a little bit more about the lemonade piece?
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same thing, Mary.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm laughing because it's simple too. My name is Jade, and it rhymes with lemonade. And I've kind of always
That's genius.
I've always been like Jade Lemonade on social media. Like that's what my regular kind of personal account is. And when I was coming up with a business name, like you can go in all sorts of directions. You know what I mean? Coming up with something that has nothing related to who you are, but I just kind of was like, I don't know. The Lemonade was kind of already a personal brand, even though like I would not consider my personal brand like an influence. Like, oh, Jade Lemonade. Oh yeah, that one. And so knowing that like people kind of already knew the lemonade aspect of it, and that like was a name in it of itself for so long, I was like, okay, I want to incorporate that. And then the 510, I already knew I wanted to do Bay Area stuff. So I was like, you know what, Lemonade 510, people know me. They're going to know it's my stuff. And it ended up creating a really cool theme for my brand in terms of like lemonade and, the designs that I have and everything that end up becoming like really recognizable too. So even though I didn't think that much of it, it was just like, oh, this is simple. People know me. It really created like a branding for my whole business as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what I love that is, like you said, it simply came by being who you are in your surroundings. So it was like, the lemonade aspect being something that you already carried as a nickname and a persona around your loved ones, people that knew you. And then the 510, of course, of your surroundings and going up in the Bay Area. So that's really cool that's how that came to be. And it's, I love the bar card thing as well. You're subconsciously letting folks know when it happen at the end of them exploring your website. But, in terms of your community and, I know that you participate in a lot of different markets and you're out there quite a bit, participating with the community. And so I'm really curious just to hear a little bit about how the Bay Area artistic community has supported your brand, and what are some of intentional collaborations that you've done in that process as well.
So the first question was around like how has the art community in the Bay Area supported me? I mean, I think first and foremost is just one, giving me the opportunity to be out there. I think social media is great and everything, but it does have its limits in terms of who you can actually reach, who how you can build your customer base, because it's all relying on an algorithm and a software that's not always in our favor. But being able to be a part of these artist markets show up in so many different ways. It shows up in, hey, like, have you heard of this market? You should totally do it. I think it'd be great. Or I'm in this store, like, they are asking about other vendors. Like, I recommended your shop. I think you do great there. And like recently I have somebody else who, shout out to Harmony Art Official. I feel like that's their name. She is constantly like, oh, are you open to doing corporate events? Like, I'm going to send them your information. Or there's this other store. And so besides the networking aspect of it too, there's a lot of validation that comes in it. I think even though I've been going on 5 years on this, I still have a hard time kind of figuring out what to call myself, like an artist. Because at this point, I'm not creating as much as I'm selling. And, I don't know how many, depending on who you ask, there are folks that are definitely pushing a lot more product than having the time to sit down and create a lot more stuff. But it's validating because there are often times where I'm sitting, I'm like, I feel like I haven't made anything. Like, there's not a lot of like new stuff that I have, or like at this point it's starting to feel old. But when I do these pop-ups and markets, there are people like, oh, your art is so cool. Like, you designed all this. And then when I have to answer, I'm like, actually, I designed majority of it. Like, there's definitely some collaborations, but like, yeah, actually I did design all of those. Like, that's crazy to think about it. And then I think there was
the party ticket sticker. Which,
no,
I should say. But no, I love that one. That's definitely the one that stood out to me. The OG bar ticket sticker that is out of commission.
Right.
No, definitely. It's a fan favorite.
Yeah. So, just curious, Jade, since I know, again, like, you started with just stickers, and then assuming you gained a lot of momentum and you wanted to scratch an itch of like, what else can I do? What else can I design? And that evolved into more your embroidered products. Can you talk about a little bit of that transition and evolution from where you decided to, I want to branch out outside of stickers to other products to sell and design?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with any good business owner, comes down to listening to the people that buy your stuff. And so at a certain point, I was making stickers, kind of testing out some samples with some iron-on of some like test samples. And I was like, oh my God, thinking about doing clothing. Is anybody interested? And I mean, that question is so simple, but it can really get you so far in terms of knowing what people are actually down to spend their money on and how they're willing to rep you. And so from there, like after that, I was kind of like, okay, like people want some clothes, like they're down to buy some clothes, like they don't want, like, I don't really know. And so, that transition did a couple of things. One, it pushed me to create some staple lemonade designs. Because I think there's one thing about my clothing and the way that I do my clothing is I have my basic lemonade designs that like I always have. I'll put it on a bunch of pieces. I do it on new clothes, upcycle clothes. I'll switch out the colors. And then I have certain drops that will sometimes have different designs or different pieces, but that transition really kind of put like a staple of like, oh my God, you're wearing lemonade? Like I know exactly who that is, and created this kind of reputable design outside of my stickers. In terms of like business wise, that transition really opened up what I can offer. Because I mean, stickers are cool, they make some money, but big bucks are in clothing. And the way that I went about that is I'm a very logical person, so thinking about finances, like how easy and like how much does it cost to get something screen printed, how much space is that going to take, and I think oftentimes embroidery is left out because people want to do such big and elaborate designs, but I was nowhere prepared to do anything like that in terms of my own skill or kind of like I don't have the space to hold this inventory, and so I started to look into embroidery. And what's really cool about embroidery is you can literally go to a local mom and pop shop and get 1 or 2 pieces done. And those are the sample pieces that oftentimes people are paying $50 for like a regular shirt or something. And so I think one of the first times I was getting a sample, I like ran to the thrift store when there was a thrift town on East 14th. and then ran to a local embroidery shop even down the street, and I was like, hey, like I'm looking to have some stuff embroidered, like I have some designs in mind. And they actually sat down with me and I kind of did some simple designs with me, since I didn't have anything, and I got that sample. And over time, I was able to save enough money from selling stickers to buy my own kind of simple embroidery machine that has really done its job. Hey, I'm running to the ground at this point, but that's my baby. That's my baby.
Oh my gosh, that is freaking awesome. You know what, I just love that every time you're even sharing the story of how you evolved the business, it just comes across as like like you said, you are just like driven to take the action and get it done. Because I think, like, you know, sometimes, like, personally in my creativity process, I'm an overthinker, but you know, to just hear out loud, you're like, yeah, there was the thrift store there, and then the local mom and pop shop there, and you know, got it done and got those 2 samples, and you know, listen to your audience, to the folks that are supporting you as well. So there's so much adaptability in your process, which I really appreciate you sharing. And you know, part of meeting your audience, your customers, where they're at, I noticed that you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok. How have, you know, digital tools or social media help and also growing your brand?
Oh, I would be nothing without it, to be honest. I know just a second ago I was like, yeah, like I love doing in-person stuff. That's, you know, an aspect that we don't get off of social media, but ultimately it's free marketing. It's free marketing. It's a free portfolio that I never thought of until another artist, going back to validation, was like, oh, you have quite the portfolio. And I was like, what? They're like, oh, I've looked at your Instagram, like I've seen everything. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, I'm gonna use that word. I do have a portfolio then.
Yes.
And so social media, I mean, has opened up a lot of avenues. Like, clearly, I mean, that's my following base at the moment. That's how I get majority of my sales. And I also, you know, those are some ways that I've actually gotten connected to some new stores that I'm in. So I'm in about like 7 to 8 stores at the moment. Some have stickers and clothes. And I want to say at least like 3 or 4 of them was like, I just saw a video of one of your bar ticket stickers. We'd love to have them in store. Like, please reach out to me. Or, you know, there's another store that's posting my stuff on their Instagram. And then another store will be like, oh my God, I saw your stuff specifically on like Modern Mouse. And like they shared your page and now I'm reaching out to you. So, you know, definitely just created the brand for what it is. Being able to connect with different folks and see different opportunities. And then using it to learn at the same time. I think the original question was, you know, how has like social media really helped or supported the brand? Again, going back to the following and everything, but also learning so much from it in terms of like, what are people saying about strategy, or somebody marketed something this way and I really like how they did it. Like, I'm gonna use that to see or test things on how I'm posting stuff too. And so I would say those are like some simple ways or some ways that it's really helped my business.
Yeah, no, it's cool that you said there's a lot of like organic partnerships and connections that even just happen through, you know, posting on social media and talking about your product. But I also love the learning aspect of it, of, you know, because there's access to these digital tools, you're able to, as, you know, a small business owner, really, like you said, you know, really have this wide variety of products in your portfolio and have a very beautiful website that, you know, I noticed a little chat on there as well. So it's, you know, it's amazing the way it all comes together.
No, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, so I think one thing that stood out to us, Jade, in terms of your brand, is also the social causes that you care about. So we're curious to hear a little bit more, as a small business with a growing community, with growing momentum and expanding to, you know, whatever you wanted to expand. How do you continuously align your brand to the social causes that really matter to you?
I really like this question because I think oftentimes this is something that is not brought up or really talked about in terms of how are we being intentional with our values personally and how we represent that in our business. I think there's a lot of ways that I do that. I mean, I think the very clear way is, sharing, reposting stuff on my own story about social causes that are going on. A step back from that would be, using some of my earnings to be able to donate and fundraise money for certain causes. Currently, right now, actually 20% of my swamp drop. I'll be donating 20% of it to A-Rock. I think it's the Bay Area chapter, but they're supporting Palestine and everything that's going on, raising awareness, making sure that protests are going on and whatnot too. So besides donating money, making sure that I'm reposting things and using my platform to share information and what's going on too. There's a lot of stuff in terms of how you're running your business on your back end as well. Another reason why I really like embroidery is because I feel like I'm not wasting plastic. And this is no shame to anybody that uses vinyl or, other forms of crafting, because, get your coin. But ultimately, we also have to think about what is our own impact on the world while we are doing business. And so, besides the embroidery, another thing that I do is I upcycle pieces. And that's, something that, some people choose to do it, some people don't. I'll go to the thrift store, find some blank clothings that are really cool and put my design on it and end up giving it a second life. I get a lot of positive feedback for it. It's also going back to packaging. How much plastic is being used in our packaging? I package as I reuse bags, like Amazon bags. I'm going to reuse it for your order, and I just slap a little sticker on it. Sometimes I'm like, this bag was reused, love ya, hope you don't mind. Because I'm like, you know what I mean? You're going to throw this away as soon as you get your stuff out. Sorry. Right. Sorry, but not sorry. And then at markets, I will cut envelopes in half and then tape them. And oftentimes people are like, oh, I don't want a bag. I was like, I don't even have a bag for you. It's like an envelope cut in half. It's so small, so simple, and it has my information on it. And they're like, oh, I feel much better about this. And I'm like, cool. So it comes to even stuff like that too, where it's like, how much plastic are we using? How much plastic are we wasting? What are ways that we can use products? A lot of my shipping envelopes, I'll go to the thrift store at the same time too and just buy random size envelopes and whatever they have, so I don't feel like I'm buying new, which is so easy, but it's like, somebody was about to throw this away, I might as well just buy it and use it too. And you know what, I'm gonna end it with one quote that I love, kind of sharing whenever, conversations like this come up is, if the community can invest in me, the least I can do is invest in the community. And that shows up in ways just like how I just kind of shared.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Jade. And, when we were looking at the new swamp collections, that's the first thing we saw. And, you don't even see big businesses or big corporations supporting social justice or human rights causes. So to see someone that is building their brand, growing their business, having this at the forefront of your business is so amazing. And so just incredible the way that, like you said, the community pours into you, but you're also very intentionally pouring back into the community. So thank you for sharing those small ways that you're making big impact. But then also, on that note, can you tell us a little bit more about this swamp collection that just released? It's your newest project. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's just me being a silly little gator, to be honest. I don't know. I wish I had the opportunity, I will say, I had the opportunity to go to New Orleans last year for work. I was working at a nonprofit before called La Familia. They have a lot of services in Hayward and Oakland around social services and health behavior. And I was able to go to a conference out there in New Orleans and immediately fell in love. My grandfather's actually from New Orleans as well too. And fell in love with the swamp. Fell in love with the swamp and had to take it back home with me. I couldn't get enough of it. I had a chance to go to New Orleans again this year and got to go to Florida for a work trip and made sure I went to the swamp every time. And that's kind of, I love the colors. I'm very earthy. I'm a Virgo, but green is also my favorite color. I love green and browns, and so it just felt time, actually. And also I was like, I've been meaning to do something with some colors like this, and so it all kind of worked out very well in terms of I need to drop something new. I've been wanting to do something that's fun, and I think it goes back to something that I'm interested in and something that I love and the colors that I love. And yeah, you know what? Talking about this and social justice as well, I always think about like Shrek. Shrek was trying to protect these fairy tale creatures. And it makes me think of what's going on with Israel and Palestine. Like, just let these people have their land. But I'll end it there.
No, that's beautiful. And we appreciate you sharing the connection of, going to New Orleans and connection with your grandfather, but also like falling in love with swamps and then bringing that back home and in full circle, bringing it like a collection that has a purposeful cause as well to really speak out there what's going on in the current state right now.
Yeah, because even that alignment between Nola and the inspiration, there's so much there with the alignment of what's happening even in Palestine. I know I was like reading an article about how none of the like Red Cross money ever reached New Orleans, and we're seeing the same thing happen in Gaza, where like literally none of the food or supplies that are being sent are reaching the folks that actually need it. But yeah, as Noe said, it's so powerful, just the inspiration behind it, but also the connection to giving back and being present and aware of what's happening in the world today. So yeah, Jade, thank you for sharing that.
And I guess, Jade, just to, as we wrap up our conversation, like Dolly mentioned, she has a friend who's been planning. I'm sure I have friends also who's also been planning for, a launch or a creative outlet. So what advice would you have for other, perhaps women of color who are really looking to launch their business and how to get that really started?
Yeah. So I'll start with two of my favorite quotes. I think I shared a quote earlier, but these are really my two favorite. The first one is, there's nothing to it but to do it. I'm going to say it one more time. There's nothing to it but to do it. It's easier said than done, but sometimes we have to think of things in simple ways to not overthink it. And then my next one is, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Love that.
Heard it from The Office, but it sticks with me all the time, and it's absolutely true. You would never know unless you actually tried, and I think there's going to be a lot of delays, there's going to be a lot of barriers, there's going to be a lot of mistakes and things, but ultimately, if you're trying for yourself, that should be enough. And again, like, not to knock the fact that there's other things that are going on in the world or going on in your life, but we spend time on our phones, we spend time going to work, working for other people, but when are we gonna invest in ourselves and kind of make things happen for us? And I think that's a big push. But in terms of advice, like, I really just tell everybody, like, put something out there, post a picture with a $sign and how much you're selling it for, because ultimately, like, that's the first step. Put it out there, tell people how much it is, tell people that you made it, and see what happens. The worst that can be done is you're back on your phone and you didn't sell anything. But that means you got to try again, because like, that just means you just got to try again, because people don't see things for the first time. It's very rare that people are like, yeah, I want that the moment that they see it. And so just keep trying, keep pushing yourself. And I think the biggest other thing is to write stuff down. Also, a very simple little tidbit: write stuff down, because it feels so much powerful to be able to see something on a piece of paper, to be able to want to check that off, and to be able to say that, like, I can do that. Like, if it's written down somewhere, I feel like it's so much more like, I have it, it's in front of me. This was the first step of taking something that was inside of my head and actually doing it. And from there, I think getting into the habit of wanting to do stuff for yourself, or whatever you're trying to achieve. is a big goal. But connect with other folks. So don't be scared to talk to people about what you're struggling with. Don't be scared to ask for advice or to ask for a little push and whatever. So I think I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much for sharing all that great advice. And I have to ask this, you should have shared this before we hit record, but when you first started Lemonade 510 back in the summer, I think it was of 2018, you said you wanted to pay off your student loans and do this full time. Are you currently doing this full time?
I am. Yes. So I quit my job back in May. I was working at La Familia, the nonprofit that I mentioned earlier, for about 2.5 years, and it was just a natural ending. I was doing some tobacco control organizing work, organizing youth and adults in unincorporated Alameda County. And the grant that we had, as all grant work is, it comes to an end and you have to apply for more funding. And our grant ended at the end of April. And so for a long time, I was just kind of like, well, what do I want to do? This is an opportunity to either, move on from the agency, do something else, or, try to continue this work. And I was coming up on 5 years. I was coming up on 5 years at Lemonade at the same time too. And so, it was just a burning kind of, if you don't do Lemonade full time now, you'll never feel like it's the right time. And so that was like a really big push of, what am I doing? Do I want to continue working 2 full-time jobs, aka one Lemonade and then another job? Or do I want to say, like, screw it, like, let me just take the risk. I'm in a good position. I've saved up enough money to pay off my student loans, which is now kind of like a backup fund where I'm like, okay, if I'm not making any sales, I can technically like pay my bills. And so I was like, I live with my mom still. I've saved up all this money to pay off this debt, which now can be used as like a life jacket. And I've kind of built myself up to a point where, like, I know how I'm doing this on the side, but I can only imagine what it would turn into if I did it full time. And I would say I have no regrets. It's absolutely flourishing in the way that I would hope, slowly but surely, and elevating in the ways that, I actually wanted it to. So, worth it.
Wow, that's so amazing, Jade. And congrats on quitting your job and like you said, naturally, organically ending their last role. But really taking Lemonade 510 to the next level, having your full energy and attention to it. So we're super excited to see what's more to come.
Thank you.
But just to close things out, we do have just some closing remarks and quick hits. So the first one being, in 5 words, describe your creative process.
Notes. References, asking my boyfriend, my co-editor, what color he likes better.
That's so funny.
So I said notes, references, asking my co-editor, and then
that may be more than 5, but we'll let it pass.
Oh yeah, you said words. I meant to say co-editor. Okay, we can end it there since I said more than 5.
And the last one being, where can our audience find you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and TikTok. I also have a Twitter, but I'm not using it right now currently. But Instagram, TikTok, they're both Lemonade 510, and the O is a O, not a 0. Little O, not a 0. Lemonade 510.
Awesome.
And please check out my website.
Link that information.
Yeah,
yes,
thank you.
We'll link the website as well.
Okay.
But Jade, it was such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I know that, as Mary and I have launched Creator Corner, we've been learning lots of things. And the best part of having folks like you on this podcast is that, we get to learn just from this conversation. There's so many things that you shared that I know Mary and I will probably chat about and debrief. But we appreciate just the words that you shared, because I know that people that are listening that want to launch their own business or even their own creative project, There's a lot there that you've shared in terms of wisdom and what you've learned. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Jade.
Yay, thank you for having me and allowing me to share all this stuff. I hope somebody takes away something. I don't know.
100%. I know.
I definitely have.
We will. Yeah. Well, we appreciate your time, Jade, and yeah, looking forward to seeing where you take the next level of Lemonade 510.
Cool, thank you. And good luck with everything. Thank you for having me and, engaging artists and doing this. This is really cool.
Thank you for tuning in. Creator Corner is a podcast production presented by the Ars Network. It is hosted by Dalia Zaragoza and Mary Figueroa. This podcast is edited and produced by Muhammad Abdullah Kawish.